It is time for our campus connection as we take our cameras to the tailgates, local Buffalo Wild Wings as well in Big Ten country. Our first question this week comes from East Lansing.
My name is Gabe Jones, and I'm wondering, how do you think Michigan will hold up after the loss to Michigan State?
What do you think, Howard? Bye week, and then can they bounce back?
Well, I think the bye week is critical for this team, for them to reevaluate and reassess where they are, particularly as an offense. I think defensively they've been okay, but the key has got to be to get Denard Robinson on the same page, and that includes this offensive line, because you look at the way they struggled, not being able to protect the passer. That really hurt them, particularly when Michigan State blitzed against them. I think they'll be able to figure out, but this is something we saw last year. They've got to come up with something different now. Different coaching staff, obviously, I believe it's going to be a different outcome.
I think they'll bounce back versus matchup opponents, but I think the spreads made them a finesse program, and when they play Ohio State and when they play Nebraska in Ann Arbor, it might be more of the same as when they played Michigan State.
See, I think Michigan's going to be okay because of the approach that Brady Hoke has taken. You know, from day one, he's talking about, hey, you know, we are Michigan. He's not talking about single games. He's talking about getting back the championships. And I think he has set the stage for that entire team, not to be short-sighted, but be long-sighted, where we want to go. And I think because of that, they're going to be okay.
But, Mace, I agree with you. But inside drill is still not inside drill. You know what I mean? You're still not pounding one another 10 or 15 minutes during the week like Michigan State does, like Nebraska does, like Ohio State does.
Eventually they will.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what they want to do.
Yeah. That's what they want to do. Right. But this has set them further back than I thought it would.
Interesting. You know, Howard, you brought it up. I mean, last few years now, 3 years combined after losing to Michigan State, 4-14 combined the rest of the way. So the key is don't let it ruin your season. We'll see whether they're able to do that. Let's go to Madison for our next one.
Hi, Al Marco from Middleton, Wisconsin. I'd like to know who you believe is the biggest surprise team in the Big Ten this year.
Let's open that up a little bit. Let's not say just the biggest surprise team, but the biggest surprise in general. What has surprised you the most?
Well, you know, it's at the moment, but I'll tell you, my biggest surprise is Michigan State. You know, after they got beat handily by Notre Dame, I watched that film, and quite frankly, fellas, I didn't think they were very good. And to think about after that game, them coming back with 3 straight wins and dominating Ohio State in Columbus, really should have shut them out. And then against Michigan last week, the way they've come back, they're my biggest surprise.
My biggest surprise is the lack of success Jerry Hill's had at Minnesota. It's a negative perspective for sure, and you know this better than everybody else, Mason. Howard kids you about your non-conference schedule when you were at Minnesota. I never would, but you always won. In all seriousness, you always won your matchups, and you won some really big games there. And when you got to Minnesota, you had been the head coach at Kent State, you had been the head coach at Kansas, and you brought all that experience and the staff with you. And I thought that was going to happen with Jerry Kill right off the bat. Not big games, but New Mexico State and North Dakota State. So I'm surprised they haven't had more immediate success at Minnesota.
I'm surprised that you would attempt to throw me under the bus for comments you made.
Well, I did that because you were nice to Mace earlier.
Oh, so well, there it is. At least we know now. I think when I look at it, I think my biggest surprise really is the situation that you have going on at Penn State at the quarterback position, not being able to settle on one guy. I don't know what it is, but I truly believe that you have to have one voice coming out of the huddle. You need to have one leader coming out of that locker room. Right now they have 2, and I have to believe that that has taken a toll on this team and really hasn't set them up as good as they should be, because I think it's a much better team. They have to settle on a quarterback.
And yet, they're 6-1.
Right.
Unbelievable. Final question takes us back to East Lansing.
Hi, my name's Jeff, and I'm wondering for this question for Howard. Why is Wisconsin so far down in the rankings when they showed so much power against Nebraska, and they had Nebraska so much higher in the polls earlier in the year?
Okay, Howard, number 6 in the BCS. Do they deserve better?
Well, you may be able to make the argument that they deserve better, but as you mentioned, it was Nebraska, and that's the only team that's on that schedule that they have really, I think, the people view as a quality opponent. Now, they're going to have opportunities to move up. I don't have a problem with where they are because they're sitting in a position where they can still get into that championship game. I just think the season has to continue to play out, and obviously they have to continue to win.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. I think they're obviously better than Boise. I think if they continue to win and Boise continues to win, Wisconsin will overtake Boise. I think the bad news for Wisconsin is Oklahoma State jumped them in the BCS. Oklahoma State wasn't ahead of them in the polls. So I thought that if Oklahoma lost the game and LSU and Alabama play each other, obviously, then that would give Wisconsin a chance. Now Wisconsin's worried about Oklahoma State. I didn't know that going in.
Yeah, Jerry, I agree with you, but you look where Wisconsin is, and maybe they're not as high as a lot of people like, but they're high enough that they're in a position, as this thing plays out, as long as they keep winning, they're going to be okay because some of those people play each other ahead of them.
And it's the computer numbers, obviously, that are dragging them down. I mean, one computer had them at 17, another had them at 14. But if you beat Michigan State, and you beat Ohio State, and you beat Illinois, and you beat Penn State, I mean, those numbers are definitely going to come up because those are teams that the computers will recognize as quality teams.